Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another week of Wake Up Call. Well, can you believe what transpired 2 days after my last episode? The Mormon church shooting happened, and the leader, the president of the Mormon church, passed away. So there's definitely a theme here. And if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to stick with that theme over the next few weeks. Because something tells me that there's even more to uncover and more to unpack. And we're going to have a guest on this week. Her name is Ellen Red. You may be familiar with her work. She is a psychic medium, but she has experience with the dark side of the LDS Church and everything that has gone down behind the scenes in Utah. So she is a victim of that. We're going to be talking about that and just some of her predictions for the next few months and next year. So Jason asked, I wanted to address his question this week. Do I think that they're planning on installing Spencer Cox of Utah for presidency? I don't know. I have this feeling that the Mormons are going to be the next victims of abuse, sort of the way that Jews have been on X. Like it's almost an orchestrated type of hate. And, I don't know what really happened with the church shooting, the Mormon church shooting in Michigan. A lot of things don't really make sense. There was a plane circling the area that was from the same area that the shooting in Utah happened, which is very bizarre. But obviously it's probably another false flag. And even if people did die, we're not getting the full truth. But I just think it's so crazy. 2 days after this episode, when I'm sort of just going off my intuition, and then that happened. So crazy. So anyway, enjoy the episode with Ellen Red, and I will see you guys next week.
There we are. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I love your background.
Oh, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you as well. Thanks for joining early. I saw you joined early, so I was like, let me just get on.
Oh, yeah. I was just like, I'll just be there waiting for her.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, why don't you start off by telling the audience a little bit about your background? And the first half of the episode, I want to talk about what you know and what you've experienced with all of the Utah LDS stuff, and then we can go into some other things.
Okay. I guess I'll just start off. I'll be real quick because I always start with the very beginning of my life, which is a lot of, I had near-death experience when I was small. I came in having very active DNA. I realized that I was connecting to spirit guides even as a 2-year-old. And I went through later an awakening. I was taken off planet, and I had my DNA restored, where I realized and remembered that I was an indigo soul in one of the 12-strand DNA incarnates. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so after having a very, very difficult life in my early childhood, which is common for the indigo souls, that they come in and integrate into really difficult biological family dynamics in order to try
I don't know if I'm an indigo or not for sure, but I fit the mold kind of. So yeah.
So after going through, being taken off planet, I returned back to Pleiades, and I realized that I wasn't from here. And that changed my whole world, obviously. And so it led me into a journey of trying to integrate and understand what the spirit world had showed me and why I was here on Earth and why I chose to incarnate into this timeline. It's all related, obviously, to the Great Awakening. And so I've had a lot of really profound experiences, and now connect to, telepathically to galactic beings, angelic beings, basically, that are really, really avidly trying to assist humanity to restore back to our true divine blueprint. So that's kind of a real quick summary of my journey. And And I guess we can just answer your questions, and we'll let you ask.
Yeah, because I posted the tweet about the LDS Church and, all of the satanic ritual abuse that goes on within that. And you said that you have direct experience with that.
Yeah. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. My family is very much LDS. They traveled with Joseph Smith and Brigham Young into Utah when they settled. And so deep roots connected to that. But I was a young little child, and I ended up, being molested and experiencing a lot of things for years and years. Ended up in sex slave programs. I think you guys had on Iconic, Juliet, what's her name?
Juliet Bryant.
Yeah, Juliet Bryant. She and I have talked before, and she ended up also being trafficked out in Park City where I was. And so those networks, those are like underground networks all over the world. The Jeffrey Epstein is just one of many who are running networks like that globally. So they have what's like a grid that they place around the world, and they extract, and they're looking for specific souls too in doing this, but they extract feminines, and oftentimes they try to fracture them, as you probably know, with MK Ultra programs and such, that they have been tracking certain bloodlines. And this goes, I could go really deep with this in terms of starseed background also, because this isn't just about getting pretty girls and molesting them, and not, it's so far beyond even the human comprehension, because it has to do with starseed origins and specific types of souls that are coming from some of the highest dimensions of reality that have incarnated on Earth for the rescue mission, the Amente rescue mission. And so they know, they've tracked those same souls, the Essenes and the Gnostics, from early timelines, and continued to basically persecute them to prevent them from bringing forth very advanced spiritual knowledge on Earth that is intended to help humans, because humans have had their DNA and their genetics manipulated by the Anunnaki and the Nephilim and the Draconians and the reptilians and many others. There's spider people too. And so they've had these archonic influences on Earth that they are not aware of, because they're interdimensional beings that are influencing the planet and also taking human form. And so when you start to really understand it from that perspective, it gets even bigger and more complex, because you look at people and you think they're humans, and a lot of them are not. And some are here in human form that are angels, and some are here in human form that are very much not angels. So that starts to explain a little bit of why we're seeing so much chaos on the planet. Is there's some things running from the background where there are some Nephilim programs that have been put on the Earth really in the early timelines that are also because of genetic manipulation with the souls on Earth. People have been getting put in breeding programs with beings that we weren't supposed to be merging genetics with. And that starts to get more complex. But when you look at Jeffrey Epstein or the LDS Church or some of the dark forces that are working behind the scenes of those organizations, then you start to understand a little bit more of why they're trying to access the genetic material of the women and children and boys too, but even they like to take ovum from the feminines to create hybrid babies. So when I was in Utah, and I spent a lot of years before I went through an awakening, when I was very confused about what I was receiving, I was always very connected to spirit guides, but I had a very traumatic life. And so it was hard for me to understand everything that I was perceiving and seeing. But eventually, I saw the underground tunnels there. I was involved with, my sister trafficked me.
That's usually the case. It's usually somebody in the family or somebody very close to the family.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't start with her. It started before that, but then later she did, and then her husband also. And they were doing it from different angles. They didn't know the other was doing what they were doing. And so I ended up getting very exposed. And I don't like to go into too many details because it's
That's
just
fine.
such a terrible energy. But I did get exposed to a lot of very high level, very, very high level beings, attorneys, judges, leaders of churches, Hollywood stars, um, politicians that were all involved in these networks. It's a thing for them. They get all the pretty girls, they funnel them over here, and they try to put them with different groups of males, pair them off with them, and sometimes pass them around, if you will, and that kind of a thing. So, but I saw a lot, and even when I wasn't involved in some of it, I witnessed a lot because I was there and I got exposed to a lot of these type of people. As I went through awakening and began to get all of my galactic memories and my premortal memories and stuff to come in and have fully activated DNA, I really got shown the whole galactic story of why they're doing this and how it affects really the soul's ability to ascend. Because if they're running Nephilim programs in their DNA, or they have a lot of Nephilim DNA, then it's going to become harder and harder for them to be able to pull in the frequencies from the Orifim realm, which is the 12 strand DNA indigos that come into Earth. They're the ones that come from the Orifim realm, which is the highest angelic realm where the Elohai live, or Elohim. So that's why a lot of souls right now are coming into the earth. The indigos are coming into earth at this time and taking bodies and going through all of this difficult family lineage to try to transmute that DNA for the family line. And it's a really big deal. But that's to try to reverse the damage that's been done to the family lines of these genetic distortions that have been really going on since early times of humanity, right? So anyway, yeah.
When these non-humans or hybrids look for their victims, what do they look for specifically?
Well, they're specifically looking for the indigos to torture them.
And how do they know that? How do they spot that, essentially?
Well, there's lots of ways they can spot it. They can detect it from your lineage, your DNA lineage. So that's the blood testing, and they take your blood right when you're born in the hospital. In fact, the LDS have the greatest, I believe, one of the greatest historical records of genealogy in Utah. They have a mountain that's sealed off that has genealogical records worldwide from very, very early days. I do believe that there's some other, I don't remember, but I believe that there's a couple of other places that they have large records like that stored. It's not just the LDS people. There's others that are involved in this too. When I say LDS people, I'm not talking about the general majority of people, because I think a lot of everyday people go there wanting to find God, and they don't understand the backstory of what's really, 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 really going on. So for anybody watching, if you're, we're not targeting any specific group. We're bringing knowledge and information to the collective of humanity to be able to go into deeper esoteric wisdom. So that, and it ties all together really with Bible and other ancient texts that have been around. It's just that they've been manipulated. And so we're here to try to clear out those distortions. But yeah, so they'll track you either from DNA, bloodlines. They can tell that, that I saw a scientist the other day, or maybe a few weeks ago, and they were saying that they actually have satellites in space where they can literally see from space the aura of a light being that's on Earth, because the light beings and the indigos and the Orifims that come in are holding so much expanded light that it actually can be seen from space, according to this scientist. But they can also, a lot of these high level, like Illuminatis or Masons or magicians and sorcerers, they also are masters in the astral realm. They may not go all the way up into some of the higher dimensions because they don't have the frequency to, but they do have some advanced knowledge in astral abilities as well. And the CIA has spent billions of dollars studying that through researching psychics and things like that to learn how to be able to navigate there too. So from a multidimensional level, they're actually able, they know who we are in the astral. Okay. So it's like they'll send teams of dark forces to a light being to try to prevent them from the mission that they have on Earth. And so they're doing it both astrally and physically through genetics, through, your family lines, through blood, through manipulating DNA, through running programs through society, religions, governments, etc., that are all coded with Nephilim programs that are not aligned with the blueprint from source. So that's happened on such a large scale for so many generations that a lot of souls that are here now are running reversal programs in their DNA and not realizing that they're completely distorted, that they won't be able to ascend until they do the work of healing the DNA. And most humans at this point are struggling just to get the 4 strands activated, or 5, let alone 12. So it's a long story because it's been a long time of manipulation, and the bloodlines and the family lines are running, generation after generation after generation of distorted frequency. So that's part of it.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. What do you think about the creation of the LDS Church? Because I've been doing like a historical dive on it, and I feel like more stuff is kind of coming out about it now. There was the shooting that happened at the LDS Church recently, and the president just died on the same day. And I had just done an episode the week before on the connections between Mormonism, Zionism, Freemasonry, all that. Like, as a former member, as a child, I don't know exactly when you left, but looking back on it and knowing what you know, what do you think the purpose of the formation of the church actually was?
They were a Masonic group, essentially. I think that early on, Joseph, he was young when he started that church. So I don't know the influences behind him of how he acquired Masonic knowledge. But it's been proven time and time again that a lot of the stuff that he wrote wasn't true. Like, he tried to translate some Egyptian writing and he mistranslated it. And so the whole foundation is pretty wobbly. But over time, I think that it's been very infiltrated by Masonic groups. And it started off with a faulty foundation because it wasn't crystalline information. It was, I think he was just a very clever boy. And so, but they're very much practicing what I would call sorcery in many ways. They do have some truth in them, just like every religion does. So every religious study anywhere, it's coded with some wisdom, and you have to have discernment to be able to determine what parts are true and what aren't. And that's really what the matrix is, isn't it? It's truth and lies merged together, and you have to be able to separate the lies from the truth. It really even affects your DNA, because if you plug into a program like that and it's running false programs or satanic programming, then it's going to stop your DNA from activating. So it really is a form of matrix trapping, soul trappings. But yeah, I believe that they had a huge Masonic influence, and they're very connected to the Masons. They do Masonic rituals all throughout their religion. So it's kind of concerning. And yes, it's baffling because they do believe in Jesus's story, and they claim that they're a Christian group, and they don't realize that a lot of their teachings has been infiltrated by the Zionists, the land of Zion, they call it. They all believe they're going to the land of Zion, but they don't understand that they're literally worshiping the same people that unalived Jesus. So it's really baffling to me. But I think that it just takes a lot of time to study, and people don't, because they're oftentimes just led into what they're told to believe, and they're afraid if they question things, they're going to go to hell and all these nonsensical, forms of thought. So again, it's like a cult programming.
Do you think, because last episode when I dove into a lot of the things that you're talking about, I basically made the connections between the possibility of the Mormon Church being involved in the Charlie Kirk shooting. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, without pointing fingers, because I think we all need to just kind of try to work through it. But do I think that some people who may have been LDS or may have been connected to the LDS Church and the Masons out there were connected? Very likely, very likely. There's a lot of things that go on out there that are, is basically like the Mormon mob, right? It's a mob, just like the Las Vegas mobs. They run the city and they do it their way, and their branches. I think David Icke talks a lot about the octopus and all the tentacles. It's a tentacle of that octopus that he speaks of, and so would it surprise me? No, not a single bit. There's massive. Utah's been number one for child molestation for 35 years in a row or more. Number one. There's massive cover-ups there when it comes to child exploitation, molestation, trafficking, even some satanic ritual abuse that's very common out there, and they just sweep it under the rug. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they were involved in that, because that was obviously a very orchestrated cult sacrifice ritual for the public. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm not pointing fingers because,
Sure. And I when I first saw the clip that you posted about Charlie Kirk and him basically being part of the cult and not knowing it and being a sacrifice, that was my initial reaction to it all.
Yeah.
But so much has come, because I consider myself a pretty intuitive person, but so much has come out since then. And I find myself a little bit in my head and second guessing myself. I'm like, maybe he's still alive, because his wife clearly is not, torn to pieces over this. So to be honest, I'm like, I really don't know.
Yeah. I don't feel that he's alive. I asked my spirit guides, and I got a confirmation that he's not, but I could be wrong. I'm okay with being wrong if ever I'm wrong, because I hope I'm wrong. But, I got the impression that no, he's definitely gone, but it could be the other way. But I definitely feel that his wife, there's something not right with her everything, the whole thing. It's just completely baffling. It doesn't, people, when they go through trauma, and I specialize in healing trauma too. Usually when you go through a trauma like that, and yes, everybody reacts differently, but it's an emotional thing, and usually you're kind of weighted down and you're heavy and you're sad, and you got to go through these processes. There's not some instant pill that makes you move beyond it to where so that's usually a sign for me that something isn't right when they aren't having raw, real emotion, because that's what makes us genuine and connects us to our actual soul. So even if she felt grief, she didn't express it in any normal way, and that's really concerning to me. But as you probably well know, there's so much going on with who he was connected to and what's going on in the world today. The whole thing, all of the dots do connect, right? Just as David Icke talks about. And so, something's not right there.
No.
A lot of things aren't right there.
No, something's not right, because initially, obviously, as an empath, you say to yourself, like, if I were in her shoes, I would be a mess. But a mess can show up in different ways, but it needs to be genuine. Like, I understand if she was a woman on a mission and out for vengeance against the perpetrators, but it really doesn't even seem like that. It seems like she was never sad, and she's not even really that mad either, which
Yeah.
is a normal human emotion to feel.
Yeah. And I had a lot of people sending me images of them asking for money right after it happened. And just, it was just so distasteful. But, you have to trust your instincts. And that's really the key is people will poo-poo or naysay over you when you have your instincts telling you something. And sometimes the truth is dark, right? People are so scared of the dark. But if you don't look at it, you can't transmute it and get to the truth, which is the light, which is the way to source. And so I think that it's good to trust your intuition about what you're feeling there, and for anybody else watching, because I know I said some things about her right afterwards and I got attacked by people in the audience or whatever. And it's like, look, I'm not here to dislike anyone. I'm here for truth. And because truth is the only thing that will set this planet free from the fallen angelic, satanic programs that are webbing the earth and the souls here. And so truth is the highest priority in the eyes of the divine, because that's how we move through the things that are harming the soul. If you're connecting to lies and you believe lies and you walk in lies and you surround yourself with liars, you can't get to the light. You cannot get there that way.
Do you think that a lot of people like yourself who have been through these dark moments go through that in order to awaken, in order to ascend and to help humanity? Because there seems to be a pattern there.
Well, I mean, it's a complex story because there's so many variations of soul groups on the earth. And there's a lot of people who are empathic and intuitive and things, but they are not advanced. And so their capabilities of being able to really embody true esoteric wisdom and knowledge, even occult wisdom, they don't have the capacity to really hold the line when it comes to that. They want to stay all cute and fluffy and rainbows and butterflies. And that's okay. That's where they're at as souls at this time. But there's also some other souls here in different groups, so they can manifest or even express themselves very differently. There's groups of indigo soul warriors who are here that come in, and they're battlers. They're out in the field battling the lies, and they're risking everything to help humanity, and they're not afraid, and they're totally capable of seeing the truth. Does everybody have to go through a stage of maybe denial? Yeah, they will. That's just part of you living in the program and not being able to expand yourself enough to reverse that satanic programming, because that's really what it is. And so if the soul can't carry enough light, they won't be able to come out of those programs. They're not ready. And that's why we're talking about the DNA, because the DNA can't activate when you're willing to hold on to old satanic programs. It won't. It can't. It's code. It's like coding a computer system. You can't code the computer system with one program that works opposite to the other program and expect both programs to run the right way. So it's all programming in the end.
When you think about this planet and the 3D, do you think that we're going through an awakening to make this Earth better? Or do you think that we're going through an awakening to leave the Matrix?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. And I guess it's gonna be a little bit of a lengthy answer for that, because I think that on a mass collective level, all of humanity is going through some level of awakening to some degree or another. On the other hand, I think that as we're doing that, there's also a lot of people who are, you'll see it, and even when you're watching stuff online, that people are spreading more misinformation in the guise of claiming that they're in the light. And what that does is it creates another layer of matrix. So, because again, DNA, truth, alignment, it has to be true. So if you're out there saying, oh, Charlie Kirk is alive, and you don't know, then that's creating an energetic field of consciousness that can also trap the soul because it's not true. So we have to be careful about that, because if we're trying to exit the matrix, then we have to stop creating the matrix, because we're the creators of the phantom matrix and the divine matrix. Mother God is the creator of the matrix itself. The true matrix is a divine codex where the mother can hold all the children on earth, the divine blueprint. But the phantom matrix was designed by the Nephilim and the fallen angels and all their cronies, the Draconians and the Greys, and all the beings who are here in archonic templating, really to hijack the DNA and genetic material of the souls of the beings that came from the Oraphim and Seraphim realms. So it's very complex. But are we getting out of the matrix? Well, again, that's going to depend on every soul. We're in a stage where I think everybody's shifting and certainly awakening to some degree, but it's gotten kind of murky in the sense that it's just more matrix, more BS. Everybody's talking, and most of them don't have divine wisdom.
Yeah.
And so they're spreading more matrix. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say where that's going to go. But I do know that there's a lot there are a lot right now of the indigo souls that have been coming in basically from the 70s, 80s, 90s, et cetera. And so there's a team of very advanced Oraphim angelic humans that are here holding the line and trying to help code the souls that are trying to get through the matrix in order to help them to align. So we'll see where it goes. I feel, and I'm just going to assert this because I've watched David Icke ever since I awakened. I found him, and I just was so grateful for him, because he was talking about the things I saw that everyone thought I was crazy about. And until I found him, I thought I was alone with it, And then I was like, oh,
me too.
I'm not the only one. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I feel like I forgot where I was going with that. I feel like he's a leading edge, one of the truly advanced beings on earth. And he takes an awful beating for it too, as most will when they step in the light. But yeah.
Well, at least there's a little pool of us now. And the good thing is when we're taking the beating and we watch each other take the beating, it's like looking at your brother or sister when the belt's going to your ass and you're like, at least we're in this together.
That's right. That's a good way to put it, for sure.
Yeah. So I always see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm like, I know who is who now. And that is a great thing. Whereas before 2020, I thought I did, but I really didn't. Going back in time with the vaccine and the damage that it's done to the DNA with that, do you think that there's any way for people to reverse that? Because I know people who are finally coming to grips with what they've done and they're like, I made a huge mistake. Do you think that there's any way to reverse that?
Well, from the highest template, everything can be reversed through etheric work and healing etherically, spiritually. Everything that's manifest starts from spirit. So at the core of their being, yes, it can be reversed over time. The problem is that depending on the soul and what it does to them, because it's probably going to react to different people differently. It was designed to take out this part of your gene code that connects you to your blueprint, your true divine blueprint from source. It was an interference of source code. And so that will likely cause some delay in their evolution. And if they have to take another body 2, 3, 4 more lifetimes to try to work through that may have to happen. But like I said, ultimately everything can be overridden through etheric healing and spiritual alignment. but I do believe that could be long lasting. It's not easy to overcome. It's not easy to activate DNA. Souls have been working on that for thousands and thousands of years to try to upgrade their DNA and align with source. And very few still have. So that's the problem with what they were doing there. And, it's kind of like the Noah story, where Noah was given information from God and he came in and tried to tell everybody about it, and they all thought he was crazy. I was shown what they were going to do with COVID 13 years before it unfolded, and everyone thought I was crazy, And so it's just one of those things where it's kind of like, got to open your ears and try to have an open heart and open mind to understand what people are trying to say, because some really are getting messages from source to try to help humanity. And it's too bad that so many people, fell for that, because that was their plan. And yes, it was, again, to hijack that DNA and to control the soul that's within the flesh body.
What are your thoughts on, because I kind of have this theory that, by 2045, 2050, let's say, the natural procreation process may cease to exist, and they will have to bring babies in this new way. My theory on that is that they might be bringing these more like NPC type souls in through that process. What are your thoughts on natural procreation ceasing to exist in a couple of decades, and where is that all going?
That's a good question. Again, it's kind of always twofold, isn't it? Because everything that's spiritual is paradoxical. And so on some levels, it could be a good thing to kind of work towards reintegrating the procreative process with specific bloodlines. So if humans get a little more aware of the true esoteric story of the fallen angels and the Nephilims behind the scene and the bloodlines and why they're doing this, it might be very important for certain bloodlines to stick together and procreate, because that can help to do the bioregenesis upgrade. I don't think that everybody's going to stop having babies totally. It's just, but are they working to put NPCs in? Probably. Yeah, absolutely. Because those NPCs hold the system in place for them to have power and control. But if they don't have true spiritual, soulful incarnates, or true genuine souls that are here, that are embodied in bodies, then they can't exploit them for energy. So they won't get rid of everyone. That was not their plan anyways. They wanted a certain portion. They always thin out the herd. This has happened for thousands and thousands of years. When the herd gets too big, they thin them out so they can keep them in control. It's all about control. So I don't think they're going to wipe them out entirely. That's not something I feel will happen, but I do believe that, yes, they are. They already have underground tunnels where they're procreating babies that are born right into ritual abuse and being exploited and sexually abused and things like that, in order to use them until they're done using them. And of course, what they do then with your ovum and with your genetic material and body parts and things like that after they don't need you anymore. There's dark things every which way around that they benefit from a satanic program, because they can gain powers from your blood, your sexuality, your body fluids, your energy itself. And so they'll exploit you until they can't exploit any single thing again. So are they running programs like that? Sure, they are. And sure, they're breeding that type of being too for their own use. But they have to have some aspect of some of the angelic souls or the angelic humans in order for them to gain those powers and that kind of satanic power that they get from it. So I don't believe that it's just going to be all NPCs. They don't want that. They want to exploit the angelic humans. It's a war really in a way against source, because how do you hurt source? Going through little children and beings of light that are here in alignment with source. That's why they crucified Yeshua. That was direct assault on the divine and the higher world. That was a battle between forces. So I do think also that there's been a lot of programs to wipe out certain races on Earth, and partially for the same reason of star families that are here to assist with the mission. And so I think that, again, everybody needs to start to become aware of that. Who am I as a soul? What bloodline am I? And where, really looking at the bloodlines, because some of the stuff that's going on, even with the Mormons and the people that they're supporting, a lot of the Christians are supporting these groups. They're actually fallen angels, and they're claiming to be chosen ones. And they're not chosen ones, and they're misleading them, absolutely. And so now you got a lot of problems with it. And they're also behind the merging of bloodlines of dark beings versus light beings. They put a lot of programs out there to create a muddy up the water of the bloodlines, to upgrade, really some of it's to upgrade their DNA and their genetics. When you look at Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates and the programs they had, and they put millions and millions of dollars into these eugenics programs, and also into programs where they wanted to breed their seed into many, many, many women. That's part of what they're doing, is they're trying to put their gene code into angelic humans so that they can upgrade their genetics, because they are fallen beings who are losing the right to a body. That's when you start talking about interdimensional beings that are in 4D and beyond. Some of them are disincarnate souls because they do not get a body anymore. And some of these that are on Earth are still able to take bodies, but how they're doing that is through the angelic humans, the bloodlines of the true 12 tribes of Israel. The true Israel.
Speak on that.
Which part?
Speak on the true 12 tribes of Israel. What is that?
Well, let's talk about it from a starseed perspective, because I think that will be a little bit easier in a general way to kind of understand it. Is that in the very, very early incarnations, long before the Bible, there were seeded races that came from starseed realms, other planetary systems, that came into the Earth before the Anunnaki infiltrated anyone. So these would be like the Lemurians and the early Atlanteans before Atlantis fell. These specific tribes were given commandments, and this is in the Bible too later, but they were given commandments. Each one got their own tribes, and they were told to kind of stick together, and they were given a set of a template of how to live on the earth in what was Eden, the Garden of Eden, heaven on earth. These were souls that were given a full, clean slate of you can create anything you want. Food is abundant, air, water's clean. They had everything they need, and they were given this land to be able to fulfill their own ability to walk into learning how to become a God seed, or a child of God that creates and manifests, right? Go to the earth, multiply and replenish the earth. But they were given a set of codes, and those codes were guiding them to kind of stay in your tribes. Everyone has what they need. You don't need to go out and murder each other and take land from anybody else. That was the original 12 tribes. And so from a starseed perspective, that would be groups like Pleiadians and Venusians and Arcturians, and they took different form in human beings. Then the Anunnaki came, and the Anunnaki, or you can call them Nibiruians also, Nephilims, Nibiruians, Anunnakis, Draconians, all these groups, but specifically we'll say Nephilim or Anunnakis came and enslaved those beings and impregnated the women and altered the genetics. And that started a whole lot of problems, because now we have these Anunnaki reversals in our DNA. when it comes to the group Israel, and I have to be careful here because
No.
everybody's so touchy.
No, you can say whatever you want. This is the reason I'm on this platform is because I can say whatever I want, and it's a small group of us here, so you can say literally whatever you want. So
okay, well, to try to be as balanced as I can on this subject, I would just say that anybody that really, really, really wants to understand the truth about this group Israel, who is right now involved in the Gaza situation, they really became Israel only 75 years ago. That they are not the true Israelites that the Bible talks about. And if you decode all of the teachings about the Israelites, they're talking about the ascended master souls, the souls who are righteous, who align with source. If you break apart the word Israel, it's really even referring to the divine masculine, divine feminine. So the souls who come in with the full complex of DNA are the true Israelites. It has to do with ascended mastery. It has to do with being chosen through anointing. That Christ means anointed. That comes through your third eye activation. It comes through your genetic integration and your capacity to align with source. That's what the true Israelites means when you break it apart. And that's who the Bible was even talking about. That there are, throughout all the 12 tribes of Israel, there are Grail kings and queens in all tribes. Those are leading the soul groups to alignment. Israel, as people know it today, is a group of gangsters. And they were expelled from many other countries because they run fully satanic programs that are not aligned with source. They're not promised land. They're not promised anything except to be expelled off the earth because they defiled God from the very beginning. And this is all, it's out there if you really research, and you have to research, and you have to keep an open mind, and you have to look at what they really meant with the Bible, because if you're not even a Star of David, there's a lot of the stuff that they say is their promises they made up. And by the way, these same groups were involved with the Romans during the Council of Nicaea, right after they unalived Yeshua, and they took his teachings because Rome was falling. And they wanted to figure out, how do we control the people now? Because the people were getting too rowdy, kind of like they're doing now, right? Oh no, they're getting too rowdy. How do we control them? So they took Yeshua's teachings and they created this version of it through Christianity that is not aligned really with the true teachings of Yeshua. There's all these contradictions. How do you worship Yeshua up here like he's the only son of God when he said that the kingdom is within you and that many more will come just like me and they'll do greater works than me? And when thine eye be single, thy whole body be full of light. He's talking about ascended mastery. He's telling you that that's the way, is for you to become Christed. And so they inverted those teachings, and now they have this whole idol worship, pedestalization of Yeshua, which actually aborts gospel the moment you pedestalize anybody, because that's not the way. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't some souls that are more advanced than everyone else, because there absolutely are. But it just means that one of the tricks that they used when they created this form of the Judeo-Christianity is that they kind of taught you to fear mysticism when Christ was really a mystic, right? They taught you to fear psychic abilities. Psychic abilities are your ability. You get your psychic gifts from God. They come in through your crown chakra. If you have a clear channel, you have a connection to source guidance, which is what real psychic abilities are. If I see COVID happening 13 years before it happened, it's because the divine gave it to me and showed me what was already in the works from the other side. So they've taught you to fear all that stuff, and then to only worship Yeshua, which prevents you and blocks you from being able to receive the codes that some of the other Oraphim beings are here bringing in. So it's a huge distortion. And who was behind it? Well, the Romans and
The usual
and so
suspects.
the usual suspects, the same two groups and they're
Yeah.
gangsters, okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they're gangsters and they're criminals, and they I mean, I've been to Italy before, in Malta, which was used to be part of Italy, and you can walk down the roads and see where they used to have these sticks up and down the road where they would crucify monks. They would either hang them on crosses, because crosses was the Roman way, or they would behead them and hang their heads on these sticks all the way up and down the road so that they could force people into their religious beliefs now, which a lot were stolen from the pagans. And the pagans at that time had a lot of corrupt, I had a lot of truth, but they also had some corrupted codes in there too from earlier infiltration. But you can see that's, that you go there and you can literally see and feel that that's how this whole today's Christianity got birthed. And it didn't get birthed out of purity or out of crystalline wisdom. But if you take only Yeshua's teachings out, you'll see a lot of crystalline truth, because he never lied about anything. He was totally crystalline. He was very much an advanced indigo soul with 12-strand DNA, and he came in a timeline where we couldn't yet talk about ETs. But he brought all this wonderful coded information to touch people, and that's the good that comes out of Christianity. And that's where a lot of Christians are tapping in and feeling what he brought through, but they're getting caught up in some confusion because of the altered texts. So we love true spiritual knowledge when it comes through nice, clean text, but the texts, books themselves have been altered.
How do you feel about the end times prophecy? Because I personally feel like it's a plan that the two groups that you just talked about are basically following a script. How do you feel about all of that?
Well, again, I have two answers to almost every question you have, because there's you have to bring,
as most psychics do.
Right, you have to bring the polarities into the center to look at it from all the angles. And so do I believe that they've written the script? Yes, absolutely. They wrote the script early on, and they're trying to fulfill their idea of prophecy in terms of the third temple and all these other things that are not a divine path. They're not the divine creator's path necessarily. Divine works through everyone, and sometimes diabolical works through people too. But so yes, I do believe that they're pushing forward for the end times narrative, because they've been working at it for thousands of years. But I also received a vision in 2011 where I saw the whole thing. I saw all the wars that are going on right now. I've made videos about it years ago, where I talked about how Russia, China, USA, and Iran, and maybe some other countries were going to be involved. So I was given prophecy about the fact that the world would go into a warring state. And I saw who was behind the scenes with it, and that they're fighting over power and these types of things. So I think that even from the divine's perspective, because the divine knows everything before it happens on earth and knows who's behind doing what and who's planning what, that perhaps, that unfoldment, or that what I tapped into through receiving that vision, is a timeline that was real even back then from the cosmic perspective. It's already unfolding on earth, whether we like it or not. So I've had a lot of people go, oh, it's not going to happen. Light wins and yada, yada, yada. Well, light wins if we become the light. Certainly, we have the potential for that. We have the potential to turn the whole world around and align it back to source. That's really what we're here to do, is to run the true source code onto earth to correct it. But that's already unfolding. And so I don't know. I think that to some degree that too was in some ways written from a cosmic perspective, that it was going to be a purging. And I put a video out recently where I had seen some Middle Easterners about 4 years ago in a vision, and I saw them all ascending. They were all in different colors of auras, just flying off the planet, and they were gleeful and happy, and they were like dancing as they were leaving. And I was like, well, I could see that they were all being unalived. So why are they happy? I started asking them, and they said, because this is the end of like a karmic cycle, a massive karmic cycle. And so I think that what's unfolding from a psychic perspective or an ascended perspective is a national clearing, a religious clearing, and an end to this cycle that's gone on with this dark group to expose them in the long run. Because as you know, souls are eternal. So somebody dying, it sucks from a human perspective, but it's not real from a soul perspective. It's just a play that we're playing out here, and we're working through some energetic bugs and things like that. So I think that a lot of what's happening here on bigger scale is that we are down in this root now. We are at the root of where so much deception has happened on earth that has created so much suffering for humans through religious manipulation, governmental manipulation, et cetera, by the same group of people who now have most of the wealth in the world because they stole it illegally and fraudulently and through manipulation. And we are now rooting it out, which is a really incredible thing. The fact that people are becoming aware now of both the distortions religiously about this group, how they've infiltrated governments, especially the United States, and the fact that we're out here talking. And I did a channeling the other day with the Pleiadians, and they said, get louder. This is a gutting out of this gross, dirty energy that has been on earth for so long, doing so much sickness. Get louder and gut it, right? Like, it's time to make it clear to everyone that this is really what's happening, so that we can start to create the new earth through a more crystalline path. And that's a collective job, right? We have to do this together. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, it definitely did. Where do you see the next year going? Because I have a feeling the next few months and the next year, like between now and 2027, is going to be pretty pivotal. What do you feel is coming?
I want to really tune in and get more clarity on that, but I'll just answer from what I've been shown so far, because I've been moving. As I told you, I moved to a new town. I'm doing all these repairs, so I haven't sat and really asked, but I did get a little bit of information, and I feel that there's also going to be an attempt on Trump. Trump's going to disappear off the stage probably within a year or a year and a half. I think they're going to take him off of the role so that he can disappear. I don't know if that means that he'll be unalived, or if it just means that it will be a psyop to avoid accountability for his part in basically being a Trojan horse for this false messianic timeline. I do feel that will happen before the end of his term. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I really feel that that's what's going to happen. I feel like also they are definitely going full force now to push out this digital ID and digital monetary system, which is really, everyone should be resisting this. It's going to be terrible for humanity, terrible, full-blown control and manipulation over every penny that you ever earn. And it's really made on a Ponzi scheme. So to walk the whole planet into that, which they're going to really try to push in the next couple of years. That's the next step, is for them to push this now. So you're going to see a lot of people trying to push that are in the dark. And it's baffling also to me that a lot of the patriots, who I really thought they would be the ones to save the planet, right? Like I believe so much in my brothers and sisters and in their patriotism and in their American values of believing in freedom and free speech and all these things. And yet they right now are cheering on the idea of martial law. I mean, everything that they were resisting when Obama was in office, they are now cheering on. And I'm sad. I'm scared. I'm terrified for that, because they've been so fooled right into the trap, right in, like, just give them a little treat and they just fell for us. You know, it's so sad. So I think we're going to see a lot of push now for these kind of ridiculous controls that shouldn't be here. They're not aligned with Source. Source gave us free will. Source gave us the freedom to speak, throat chakra and voice, to express our soul's truth. We were given these things from God, not from government. And the people who really have the ability and even the knowledge to defend the other citizens in this planet, and especially in the United States, are completely lost right now. And they're worshiping something that is not of God. And so that's very problematic. I see that becoming very messy in the next couple of years. But I also see some of them coming out of that slumber. And so the more that it can and the quicker, it's going to get good. Now, you probably heard of Nepal, where they overthrew all their leaders a couple of weeks ago. So anybody that didn't hear that, the people of Nepal realized that everyone in their government was corrupt and working against the people, and they overthrew them. They burned their houses down, threw them in rivers, and they took their land back. They kicked out every politician. And so that's pretty incredible. I see in Italy some of that happening now too, that the people are raising. And I've been to Italy only a couple of years ago, and a lot of them were really in support of Trump, and they've come out of now that because they're seeing, oh, wait, he fooled us. So I think that there's going to be some more chaos over that from an enlightened perspective. I would say that when people say that Trump came to create chaos and that's his role, well, it's kind of true, because from the most enlightened perspective, every soul here has a purpose on the play. It's like putting a play on in your high school, and one person's going to be the bad guy and one's going to be the good guy. And so, yes, there's truth that what he's doing can cause this bring order into chaos kind of thing. But I think you have to be very careful of understanding divine order versus new world order. And that's the tricky part when it comes to any kind of, trying to understand who he is and why he's in the role that he is and what he's doing on earth is if it's leading you into the new world order, you're in the wrong path. If it's leading you into crystalline truth, then you're okay.
Do you think that we're better off, because we're obviously going to have to come up with these solutions? Do you think that it's better off to unplug or create these parallel systems while still being technologically attached? Because we are obviously moving into the age of Aquarius, the new age, however you want to look at that. Part of that does have to do with technology. So how do you feel we should go about that?
I like your questions. You have very thoughtful questions. I believe that we are not going to get rid of technology, and it can be used for light. And I think that that's what we have to do, is to reclaim the grids, both through technological abilities, through the earth grids, the human grids, et cetera. We have to reclaim them and redirect them into divinity or into our divine codex from source, our blueprint, our true blueprint. We have to be careful with AI, because it's a very dangerous thing. It really is. And so I think that for each individual, it will be a little different, but I think it's always healthy to have boundaries with how much of it you use. And especially for the key holders or the flame holders that are here, or the ascended masters that are here, I think it's very important to speak a little bit with a cloak on certain subjects still, so that AI doesn't get control of it in order to hijack the portals into the higher dimensions, which is part of what they're attempting to do. They created AI through psychic abilities and psychic technologies by using billions of taxpayer dollars to study psychics and ascended beings in order to create AI devices to siphon angelic knowledge to try to override the pathway to heaven, if you will. And that is very dangerous when it comes to the ascended teachings. And also as an individual soul, that when you are engaging in technological devices all day long, your energy is being sucked into something that is not natural and crystalline. So it's okay to use it for good, but I would say have very good boundaries and try to stay very connected to nature as much as you can too, so that you're not losing your energy in there, your spirit in there. but I don't think it's going to go away at all. So it's just one of those things where the light will have the power to flip it around and to create what we call the new earth codes going in the new direction. Even with that,
That's really interesting that you talk about your thoughts on how AI was created. So you think it was, or no, or feel it was, that it was created from psychic abilities and a more angelic force, and they basically created like a bad copy of that coding?
yes, I think that they took divine knowledge and wisdom and they created it for nefarious reasons based on that divine knowledge that they took. Because if you understand psychic abilities, we already had email before email existed because it's called telepathy, right? And so all of the psychic abilities and gifts that we have as true divine souls, they tried to mimic through these technological devices so they could gain the mind of God, if you will, because God works through everyone. And those that are bringing in the light, they're siphoning that knowledge and information into these big groks and AI systems that are gathering knowledge and wisdom. And they will use that for harm if we let them. They will absolutely use that for harm if we let them. They designed the internet for harm. We just flipped it on them. And so that's what we have to do, is we have to continue to flip things towards the light and use everything that we have available to us to reclaim our power, our sovereignty, our grids, the Earth's grids, the stargates on Earth, the portals here, your own portals, etc. We have to reclaim our sovereignty and our divinity. That's the only way that humanity will survive, period. This AI system wasn't created on Earth originally. It was created also in Lyra, and it caused the fall of Lyra. AI did.
I think I've heard that before. Yeah, I think I have. Yeah.
There were battles there, and they used it, of course, for nefarious reasons, and it destroyed the entire planetary system of Lyra. That's why we're repeating this timeline on Earth now. And we have to get our act together here if we don't want to see the end of humanity.
What if, worst case scenario, we do see the end of humanity? It's done, and this place becomes a haven of, artificial intelligence, hybrids. Where do we go from here? Because really, that is the worst case scenario, which to me actually is not that bad. We'll obviously go somewhere else, worst case scenario.
Well, I can only speak from what I was shown, and I think that David Icke would probably relate to this a lot based on what I've seen him talk about also, because sometimes some of us get shown certain things and it's so clear that you have no choice but to speak about it. And so what I was shown, and you can take this for what it's worth, or anybody else can, is that for a long time, we weren't allowed to have divine intervention on Earth because it's a free will soul planetary system. And so it was intended for souls to evolve and to try to find their way back to source, and they couldn't because there was so much manipulation. I remember being asked to come here from a higher dimension to assist in a divine intervention process because it's too late now. Humans are not getting it. There's too much that they're not seeing. There's too much going on. There's too much confusion, too much matrix, too many people yapping when they shouldn't be, and so many other things that it's caused so much of a problem. There is divine intervention here on Earth now, and it has to be. I was shown that should things go is in the worst case scenario, it won't be just Earth that falls. Earth is the root chakra of the entire universal system. If Earth falls, everything falls, all of creation. We have a duty to lift the Earth through lifting our hearts, through lifting each other, through rising into the Christhood, the Christ self, ourselves, not by worshiping Jesus, but by becoming Christ-like and Christed, anointed, evolved. That's our duty, that our frequency runs through the planet, and we assist in her upliftment when we uplift. And so if we don't work on that creation itself falls, it goes into a void, and everything will go back into nothingness until we begin all over again from the beginning of time. That is not That is
That's
not
really,
something that anybody will want, if
yeah.
possible.
Yeah. I never thought about it like that, but I don't think that will, I don't think that that will happen.
I think that people are more important than they realize. I think they're more powerful than they realize. And I think that a lot of it really has to do with energy and with your capacity to hold love and uplift one another. That's huge because you see so many people beating each other down. It weights the whole planet down. It weights the universal system down. Our Earth has been off axis for many years, partially because of negative aliens. And that's a big problem. That's why so many came in this rescue mission to help try to realign the planetary grids, the Cathara grids within the soul bodies, to try to help bring that back into balance. And we've made some progress, but I don't think that we're quite there yet. But if we can get there in the next 10 or 20 years to where enough souls are holding that balance, that center point, come out of duality and break out of that stuff, then we'll be able to at least, put her back into Cathara, which allows her then to reascend into 5D, which is what we were trying to bring in here. So I believe that we'll make it too, but I know that I was shown what I was shown. So it isn't something we should be lax about at all.
Well, I think that's a great place to end. And if there's anything else you want to add and let the viewers know where they can find you. And I'd love to stay in touch because I love the way that you think. I'm so glad that we had this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So you're welcome to reach out to me on ellenredd.com. That's Ellen and then REDD.com. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc. And all my links are in the website. I do offer services and I do one-on-one counseling. I'm also doing I'm a medium, a psychic medium, and a channel. I do medical mediumship, starseed readings, alignment therapy, frequency healing, etc., and also teach a mystery school. So if you're interested, you're welcome to find me through my website, ellenredd.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely stay in touch.
Okay, I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you.
good to meet you.
It was so good to see you and meet you in person.
Yes, it was. I'll see you again then. Take care.
All right, you too.
All right.
Bye.